Okay, boys and girls, here we are. We're starting a new lesson today, and we're going to be solving two-step algebra equations. Pretty cool. So first, this problem says, use the algebra tiles to help you solve the equation 4x minus 12 equals 20. So the algebra tiles are here, and these tiles right here are the x's. So that you can see there's 4 of them. So that's this part of the equation. 4x is represented right there by these tiles right here. 2, 3, 4. That's 4 of them. It's 4x. Then the equation says minus 12. You see that? And you can see that there are 1, 2, 3. Let me see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of those. So the red count for -1 each. And since there's 12 of them, that's minus 12. And then what does it say? It says equals 20. Do you see that right there? 20. And so the yellow tiles, I won't put a dot on all of them, it takes too long. But how many do you think there are? Yes, there are 20 of them. So what's the first step to solve this equation? Minus 12 equals 20. If we are trying to isolate the variable, okay, we are trying to get this variable, x, by itself on its own side of the equal sign. If I draw a little wall right there, we have a left side and the right side. We want x to be by itself. So what's the first step? Is we are going to add 12 to both sides of the equation. We have to do the same thing to the left side and the right side to make sure the equation stays balanced. Otherwise, the equation won't be true anymore. If we do something different to the left side as we do to the right side, then the balance goes away. So you can see that now minus 12 and minus 12 add up to 0, so they cancel out. And you bring this 4x down here, 4x, and then you bring 20 plus 12 straight down there, and 20 plus 12 is 32. So that's what's left of the equation, 4x equals 32. So the first step in solving this one is what? Which one of these did we do first? We added 12 plus 1 tiles to each side of the model. And if we keep going, we see that if we take our equation, let me write this down again for you. If we take our equation 4x minus 12 equals 20 and just do it real quick again, add 12, so bring the 4x down, equals 32. So we're now solving for x, okay? We're solving for this variable. We want to know what x equals. So to do that, we have to divide both sides. We have to undo the multiplication that's right there. Divide both sides by 4. And you can see that 4 divided by 4 is 1, x, and then there x is isolated, and 32 divided by 4 is 8. So that answer goes right there. You just type in 8. The solution is 8. Okay, next this problem says, use the algebra tiles to help you solve the equation 3x minus 4 equals 2. So we have 3 x's, 1, 2, 3, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 right there, negative, and then equals positive 2. You see that? 3x minus 4 equals 2. So if we write it down, what's the first thing we have to do? We have to take all those red tiles and we have to add 4 yellow tiles to each side. We have to add 4 yellow tiles to the left side and 4 yellow tiles to the right side. That way, let me change my pen color. -4 plus 4 is 0. That's what we want because we are trying to isolate this variable. So we bring the 3x down below the line. We add 2 plus 4 and we add that up and write it below the line. So 3x equals 6. And the last step is we have to undo that multiplication right there. And so to undo it, we divide both sides by 3. And 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1x equals 6 divided by 3 is 2. There we go. Easy. Okay, the next problem says, while shopping for clothes, Curtis spent $27 less than 2 times what Jacqueline spent. Curtis spent $15. Write and solve an equation to find out how much Jacqueline spent. let x represent how much Jacqueline spent. So let's go back to that first line. While shopping for clothes, Curtis spent $27 less than 2 times what Jacqueline spent. Okay, so what did Jacqueline spend? That was X. But this part says 2 times what Jacqueline spent. So how do we represent that? Like that. And then this part says $27 less than that. $27 less than 2 times what Jacqueline spent is 2x minus 27. It's not 27 minus 2x, it's 2x minus 27. This part means 27 less than. Okay? And how much did he spend overall? It says right here, Curtis spent $15, so it equals 15. So if we read it from left to right, it says 2 times what Jacqueline spent minus 27, or 27 less than that, is 15. If we read it from left to right, it looks like that. So what do we do to both sides? Well, first of all, just fill in your answers for this part. You would just use the drop downs to choose the solutions that look like this equation. Okay, and you can see it's right here. And then taking that equation, 27 equals 15. What are we going to do first, boys and girls? We're going to add 27 positive tiles to each side, if you like the algebra tile model. That's going to cancel to 0. Bring down the 2x. 15 plus 27 we're going to write down right there, and that's 42. And then last step is we're going to divide by 2 to undo that multiplication. So this cancels out, 2 over 2, and that leaves x, and 42 divided by 2 is 21. So Jacqueline spent $21. Boom, write that down. Okay, boys and girls, this one just looks a little trickier, but not bad. I'm going to write it down over here. N over 10 plus 4 equals 11. So we're going to try and take this through the same way we did before. We are going to, first of all, here's our variable we're trying to isolate, right? So we can't do anything with the 10. So what we have to do is we have to subtract 4. Sorry, not divide, subtract. Because that's going to cancel those 4's out to 0. And then we're going to write down below the line still n over 10, and then 4 minus 4 is 0. And then we're going to write down the equal sign, and then we're going to do 11 minus 4, and that's 7. Now, in our other equations, we would have divided by 10, right, if it said 10 times n, but this says n divided by 10. So the reverse or the inverse operation of dividing is to do what? Multiply by 10. So we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 10. What happens then? The 10 over 10 cancels, because remember, this is like 10 over 1, right? So 10 over 10 cancels. That leaves n, which is what we want. And then 7 times 10 is 70. Boom, just like that. Easy, right? Okay, here we're taking a little slow down step. Negative 15x minus 13 equals negative 58. Okay, there's the equation. And it says, write it down, so we did, and then apply the addition property of equality. That means we have to add something to, if we think of our equation as having 2 sides, we have to write something down, add something to both sides of the equal sign. What do you think that's going to be? Can't be the 15, because the 15 is tied to the x by multiplication. But see this 13 right here? We can add that to both sides. And then we'll write down what's left. We bring down our negative 15x, and that's going to cancel to 0. And so it equals negative 58 plus 13, so subtract those. That's 45, but the bigger number is negative, so it's negative 45. So this answer right here, right there, goes right there. And then taking this all the way to the end, negative 15x equals negative 45. The last step, of course, you were starting to recognize this now. To undo that multiplication right in the middle there, between 15 and x, we have to divide by the coefficient that's in front of x, which is negative 15. So negative 15 over negative 15 is 1, and that leaves 1x equals, and then negative divided by negative is positive, and 45 divided by 15 is 3. Sorry about that, boys and girls, if there was a little mix-up right there. I got a notification on my screen, it messed me up. But hopefully you followed along, and x equals 3 is the answer. All right, here we go. Error analysis. We're going to analyze someone's error. Excuse me. A student solved the equation 2x plus 4 equals 14 using algebra tiles. She incorrectly says the solution is 9. Solve the equation and then tell what mistake might the student have made. So let's write it down. 2x plus 4 equals 14. First of all, let's just double check. Here's 1x, 2x, and then plus 4, and then 4, 8, 12, 14. So it looks like the equation is written down correctly with the tiles. So 2x plus 4 equals 14. Now, if we go ahead and solve it the way I've been showing you, minus 4, these cancel. So bring down the 2x, and 14 minus 4 is 10. And then we're going to divide by what? The coefficient of the variable, the number in front, so that's 2. And then we do it on both sides. 2 over 2 is cancels, so x, which is what we're left with right there, right? Can you see that? This is the only thing left on this side of the equation now. So you bring it down, x equals 5. So she said the solution was 9. So what do you think she could have done wrong? Let's think about that. Well, if you take the original equation and you add 4 to both sides, she probably thought that you could cancel these 4's, which you can't because 4 plus 4 is 8, not 0. So, but she probably thought you could cancel them, and then when you bring down the 2x and you add 14 plus 4, that's 18. And then, of course, when you divide by 2, you get x equals 9. That's the answer she thought was right, but it came from the wrong first step right here. You don't add 4. You subtract 4 like we did right there. Okay, moving on. A student solved another error analysis. So it says a student solved the equation. Oh, never mind. It's the same problem. So here's our answer down below. She added 1s to the right side instead of subtracting them. That's exactly what we just said, right? She added the 4 instead of subtracting the 4. Okay, now this is a different problem. So let's talk about this one. What properties of equality do you need to use to solve the equation 7.6x minus 12.7 equals 10.1? Let's solve the equation. But it says what properties of equality do you need? So let's go through that. Well, if we write it down, then we can say, well, we are going to need to add 12.7 to both sides of the equation. So right there, that's the addition property of equality, right? So we know the answer now is what? And if we continue the equation, we know that those numbers cancel. And so we bring down our 7.6x equals 10 plus 12 is 22.8. And then finally we're going to have to do what? Divide by 7.6. So right there, that's the division property of equality because we're dividing. Pretty simple, right? So x equals 3. So we're going to choose A, the addition property, and the division property of equality because we let me change my color completely. Right here we added, so that's the addition property, and right here we divided, so it's the division property. Okay, I think this might be the last one, boys and girls. Let's take a look at it. It says, solve the equation 3x plus 6 2/5 equals 13 and explain the steps and properties you used. So if we take this equation, 3x plus 6 2/5 equals 13. We have to do first subtract 6 2/5 from both sides of the equal sign. So we'll do it over here too. And so 3 3x equals 13, take away 6, and 2/5 is going to be 7. No, it's going to be 6 and 3/5. And I'm not going to show you that intermediate step, but I can later. And so that is what property of equality? What property did we just use? We used the subtraction property of equality because we subtracted from both sides, right? Okay. And so this is the equation we have at that point, 3x equals 6 and 3/5. That's from the previous screen. And then it says, what property is the best choice to use to isolate the variable in the equation found in the previous step? Well, if we have this equation, 3x equals 6 and 3/5, and I know multiplication is right there between the 3 and the x, how do I undo that? By dividing by 3 on both sides. And so that is, of course, the division property of equality. And then finally the solution is going to be 3 divided by 3 is 1. Oops, pen's too big, hang on. And that's going to leave 1x, and 6 and 3/5, I'm going to do a little scratch work up here. And I'm going to change that to an improper fraction. So I'm going to multiply 5 by 6 and add 3. That's 33/5. And then I'm going to divide by 3, which means to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 1/3. So I'm going to multiply, hang on. I'm going to multiply by 1/3. And so 3 goes into 33 11 times, and so when I multiply straight across now, 11 times 1 is 11, 5 times 1 is 5, and so x equals 11 over 5. That's the final solution. Good luck on your lesson today, boys and girls. I hope this made sense. If it didn't, rewind it, replay it, watch the parts you had trouble with, and ask me questions.